Hi everyone. In this tutorial we're going to be going over some of the different effects you could use in Illustrator. Alright, let's get started. So sometimes instead of trying to create the look you want manually from scratch, it's easier just to use an effect in Illustrator. For example, with our drop shadows in the previous tutorial, you could create your own drop shadow by duplicating your object, putting it behind it, blurring it, changing the color, and making a shadow like that. Or you can just add a drop shadow effect to it. So I'll show you some of the different effects we could use. To start, we're going to want to bring up our Appearance panel. You go to Window and click Appearance. This will let us edit all the properties of our object once we start adding effects. If we want to add a glow to this sun, just like with our drop shadow, we could duplicate it and then blur it and put it behind it and give it kind of an orange glow, but we can also use effects for that. So we'll come up to our effect menu up here, and then these are Illustrator effects right here that you could use, and then we also have the Photoshop effects. These were started in Photoshop, but they moved them over to Illustrator, and you can use them in here as well. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of these. You can feel free to look through them and experiment with them, but I'll show you just some different ones. If you go to Distort and Transform, we have a few options here. You could choose Roughen, and then you're going to want to hit Preview to show our changes. And this one roughens the edge without us actually having to go in there and adjust the path. You can just do it in here. So you have different options to adjust the size and the detail. You can also smooth it out. You see that more if you lower the detail. So this is a nice effect if you just want to randomly adjust the edges of your objects. I'll cancel that. So feel free to look through these and see what the other Distort and Transform ones do. If we go to Stylize here, that's where we found our drop shadow one, but we also have some other ones here, like our outer glow. So if you want to add a glow to this sun, we can hit that. We'll hit Preview, and it's going to add a glow to it. And then you can adjust the properties here. So we have the blend mode here, and like I mentioned in a previous tutorial, this is how it blends with the background. So you could adjust that, and it'll blend differently with the blue sky background. And we'll go over these more in Photoshop, but you can just click through them to see what they do. You can find one that looks good for your glow and go with that. I'm just going to undo that. And then we have some other ones in Stylize you could also try out. We'll try the Scribble one, and that's going to add a scribble effect to it, and you have all of these options to adjust it. So again, I won't go through all of these, but I just want to show you some of the different options and how to access them. You can go through these and try them all out. Let's try add some texture with some of the Photoshop effects. So here I have my sand, and I'm using a gradient to try give it some depth and get the light across it, but what if we want to add a texture to it? So I'm going to select it, come up to Effect, and then we'll go to our Photoshop effects. They're all in here, but if you go to the Effect Gallery, it brings up a panel that lets you preview all of these. So we'll click Effect Gallery, and we have the sand selected, so it's only going to show our sand. And if we want to zoom out on it, you can come down to these buttons here, or you can use Alt and Control. So Control, click and zoom in, hold Alt, and you can zoom out. And then again, spacebar pans around. So right now the texturizer is the one that we have selected, and that one actually looks really nice for what we're going for. But you can just click through these and see what they do. So this is giving it a texture. We have the grain one. That actually doesn't look too bad for sand either. We have tiles, stained glass, patchwork, and then in all of these you have different options as well to adjust. So we also have different ones up here like brush strokes. You're not going to really see them well on this, but I'll show you a different example of these ones. So let's go back down here and try find something that works for sand. I think this looks okay. We could adjust the texture here, what it's using. So this uses a brick texture. That's using a burlap sack. This is canvas, so if you want to make it look like you're painting on a canvas. And then we'll go with the sandstone. And I think something like that looks okay. So that just gives it a little more texture. It makes it look a little more like sand. So some of the Photoshop effects won't really show up on our plain colors like this. They work better on more detailed graphics or on photos. So I'll just show you some examples on a photo here. We don't normally use photographs in Illustrator, but I just wanted to use this as an example. So here's my sister's three-legged dog. If we click on the image, we'll go up to Effect and Effect Gallery. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. We can already see the texturizer working on here. So if we go up to the artistic ones, we have different ones up here. We have paint daubs. We have the palette knife effect. And then you can adjust all the options in here too. It's a big photo, so it takes a little while to adjust it. So you have different ones in here. We have these brush stroke effects where you can adjust the different brush strokes. We have some ones to distort it. So this one looks like you're looking through glass or through an ocean ripple, and you can adjust all the different options in here. We have the sketch one, which will make it look like different types of sketches. So we have a charcoal one, we have chalk and charcoal, and you can just play around with all these. Here's one that gives you a little bit of a glow to the edges in your photo. And then again, we have all the different ones we used on our sand. To adjust your effects after you've added them, they're going to show up in your appearance panel here. So if you click on your object, we have the texturizer here. So you can click on that and it's going to bring it back up. And we can hide it and turn it back on. So the appearance panel just gives you all of your different properties. Okay, so feel free to go through these different effects in more detail. You might find something that works really well for your project. And that's going to wrap up this tutorial on some of the effects in Illustrator.